what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, I do make, should I say myself, a really good jam. Everyone had to stand and cheer, go,
No.
come on, Bond, yeah, you're the best.
Never
and slowly the bear would come out, and then they would have like a plate of whipped cream to him, and he would.
What you're saying is Jaime Lannister is the hero of the entire saga.
I mean, that's one way of looking at it.
Hey everyone, I'm Hayes Brown, in for Ashley Ford. We are coming at you today from high atop 252 East 57th Street here in New York City. It's actually a really fitting setting, considering today we have with us a member of the Lannister family, also known as Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
It's great spirit. It's a very impressive setting.
Isn't it just?
You do feel like whoever lives here has killed someone, right?
This is the classiest place to do murders. I've been saying that all morning. A shove over the balcony, the gentleman's
No, I walked out on the balcony and yeah, you know, you look down and you feel like vertigo is hitting you like it.
But the view is gorgeous. So
it's beautiful.
The Lannisters are wealthy. Would this $30 million penthouse be the kind of place that they would live, do you think?
Yeah, I can see that happening.
You can see that?
Yeah.
Many Lannisters.
I can see Cersei standing there with a wine, just looking out.
Amongst the peasants, looking at the plebs down there. So what does it feel like now that, you know, it's over, all the filming, all of it is wrapped, but knowing that you have this huge secret that you can't talk about for the next at least couple of months?
It's great. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know what's coming, and I can't wait for people to see it and experience it. I want to see it as well. But you know, there's a bit of sweetness to it. I think at the end, hopefully, it'll be like when you've read a great book and you kind of get to the end and it's been so good. So you're like, you're happy that it was a great story, but you're also a little sad that it's over.
I totally see that. Is there more pressure than other seasons to try and keep that secret of like what happens, or have they always been just like on lockdown?
It's always been on lockdown. I mean, this is the first season where we haven't had major reveals, the spoilers out there. I mean, last year a whole script was leaked, but this year they've been very good.
So you know how Jaime's story ends.
Yeah.
Was it important to you for him to be redeemed in some way by the end of the whole ordeal?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. The story of redemption is, it's how you look at him. I mean, I think he did pretty well before. I think that the fact that he when he killed the Mad King back in the day, when he earned the name Kingslayer, he actually saved like 1 million people.
He saved so many people.
So
he was going to burn down King's Landing.
That's a pretty nice thing to do. But obviously, he pushed this kid out the window, which wasn't cool.
No.
It wasn't.
Don't push kids out windows.
But then one could argue, I mean, who knows what happens, but if Bran had not been pushed out the window, he wouldn't have become the Three-Eyed Raven. And if he hadn't become the Three-Eyed Raven, would we ever know what happened then? I mean, isn't that pretty
so what you're saying is Jaime Lannister is the hero of the entire saga.
I mean, that's one way of looking at it.
So when we did first meet Jaime and Cersei, it was them against the world, for better or worse. Yeah. What was it like to have that relationship shift? And, you know, how have you and Lena Headey handled that shift over the years?
Oh, she's obviously, you've seen the show, she's amazing. And she's also such a wonderful person to be around. And we've talked a lot about this. And that thing about between seasons, I mean, up until season 3, I kind of knew what was going to happen in the future. But after that, I didn't. And you kind of keep imagining. So after season 6, when he comes back and she's crowned herself queen of, I thought that the beginning of season 7 would be Jaime going, okay, that's it. You've done it. You just lost our kid, the last kid. You're crazy. This is it. Yeah. And then when I read the scripts and that didn't happen, and he stayed, I'm like, what? I was so confused and we had so much discussion. And of course, then there's an even bigger payoff at the very last scene of 7 when he then leaves. Right. But then the question, of course, is does he leave because it's over, or does he leave because, you know, he has to leave? He has to go, you know, fight the dead and has to help and build because he believes in a future, maybe with her, because she's pregnant.
So clearly you think that there's no clear line between whether Jaime is good or evil, but in what ways would you say that you identify with him at this point?
Well, we look alike.
I mean, that's a pretty strong one, yeah.
But I think, I mean, he's, I don't think I'm that, you identify with everything, of course, because that's my job. And I think that the beauty of all these characters is that we can all identify with all. I mean, I think you can identify with Jaime. I'm sure you have like family that you love and you'd do anything for them. And I think those very basic questions is like, it's easy to say you should never, do harm to any others. But then if the question is, well, if you don't do this, that means that you're going to do harm to your own children or to your own family. They will all die. If you don't do that, well, then it becomes a little more ambiguous. It's more difficult. I think you can all relate to that. And I think that he's a very, I'm biased. I like him.
You're a fan of Jaime Lannister at this point.
Yeah, I am.
So there's been a lot of speculation about whether Jaime lives or dies in the season. We're not going to ask you that.
No.
But looking back, which cast member's, death, departure made you the saddest? There's a long list to choose from.
Well, there's a long list. No, I mean, saddest there's this, the sadness of not going to work with a certain actor. But if you look at the story, by far the most horrendous one was Shireen, Princess Shireen, when she was burned. I thought that was so brutal. And I thought it was, storytelling-wise, I thought it was so strong because it just showed how when you get into this extremist way of thinking, people are willing to do insane things. And here you have a father who's willing to sacrifice his kid.
I'm getting chills because I remember watching that and thinking, Stannis is canceled. Stannis, you're out. You're done.
Yeah,
the online reaction was swift and brutal. Stannis who? We all asked.
Come on, Brienne, kill him. And she did.
So it's rumored that the Battle of Winterfell took over 50 nights to shoot. What kind of toll did season 8's shoot really take on you?
I think that, we talked about this. It was a tough shoot that season. And I think if it hadn't been the last season, it would have been quite a different mood on set. But because it was the last season, everyone was, the crew, the cast, just had this great energy. Like, we wanted to get this right. We wanted to do everything we could to get it right. So it was tough, but it was also extremely fulfilling. And then because they poured so many resources into this, I mean, it's the money they spend, and it
could have bought several of these apartments, I'm sure.
Easy. But it was exhilarating, to be honest.
Is there one cast member that you or others have to worry about spilling the beans before this all finishes? Who's the Tom Holland of the Game of Thrones cast?
I don't think, obviously if you include alcohol into the equation,
I do.
There might be, but I don't think anyone. I don't think we have anyone who would do that.
Okay.
It's a very...
No one you're keeping your eye on? Even it's like, I'm watching you.
You're watching everyone. But, there's some that are very good at making jokes about something. But no, I couldn't possibly name anyone. Also, you have to understand, if even the idea that someone would be doing that, you would see people fall off, big, high buildings. HBO brutal.
So what would you say is the biggest difference that you noticed between filming season 1 and filming season 8?
Well, my beard is a little gray now.
It's looking sharp. I hope my beard looks that nice when it turns silver.
No, I think the biggest change is you just scale up. The whole thing is scaled up to this crazy level, and I don't know, it's like totally different worlds. That whole thing about we started out, had no idea if the show was going to go, if it was how was would people like it? Would they accept the fact that you kill off the main character in season 1? It's a whole different thing now, where we've had this crazy success and now just wanting to finish the story. And like this, it wasn't just a never-ending saga. This had an ending.
Right.
There was a reason, which is also why I think that if anyone can stomach it, you go back and you just try to remind you what happened early on, because that there is a lot of it pays off in season 8 because there's
Right.
throwbacks, right?
I got to ask, what was the most memorable scene for you to shoot over the course of filming throughout this entire epic saga?
I mean, there's been a few. I think that shooting, there's a sequence in a bear pit
Right.
where Jamie jumps into this bear pit and Brianna Tarth is fighting a bear with a wooden sword. It was amazing. We shot it in Belfast, but we also shot in Los Angeles, out of LA, where they had Bart the bear the second, this real bear that we had to shoot with, and that was amazing.
How was the bear as a
Bear is
co-actor?
the biggest diva I've ever met. No, I'm not even making this up. When he they had like a trailer that was driven into set. And for him to come out, the whole crew, and this is, I promise this, everyone had to stand and cheer, go,
No.
come on, Bart, yeah, you're the best.
Never
and slowly this bear would come out, and then they would have like a plate of whipped cream to him, and he would, and then after every take, it would be a huge cheer and whipped cream.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That bear is one of the best actors ever. Then method acting, I'm pretty sure.
Amazing.
What was the most challenging scene, though?
Well, there were physical challenges, of course. There was, I think there's scenes in sequences in this last season that were quite tough. I think there was also different types of scenes. The scene I had with Brienne as well in the bathtub, where Jamie tells her how he earned the name Kingslayer. It was a challenging scene. From like acting standpoint, but there's so many great two-handers, but it's so well written and it's so much fun that it's a challenge, but it's more it's been for all of us just a great gig.
Yeah, I would have to imagine. So how would you describe your career in 3 words?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No, but I mean, I think that the idea that you have, first of all, when you start out, you have these plans, and you realize I've been doing this 26, 7 years. You realize, well, you can't plan anything. And for example, with this show, the truth is that we got lucky in a way that you shouldn't. There's no reason why the show is still on the air. I mean, the fact is we shot a pilot. And it was 90% of that was reshot because it was so bad.
Is that footage out there anywhere?
It's in a vault, I know. But my point is just that like if anyone thinks that you can plan or do these things, I mean my career, 3 words: lucky, exciting, and. Forever changing. That was 2 words, but
there's a hyphen in there. It counts.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Jason Momoa has revealed that he took from the set a prop tongue that Khal Drogo wrenched from the mouth of an enemy as a memento. Have you taken anything from set, just as like this is going to be living with me now?
I wish. I mean, I kept talking about it, like trying to make people hear that I really like my golden hand.
You didn't get to keep that?
No. It's all HBO property, and I think it's going to go on tours around the world. They have all these things now where they exhibitions, right?
That makes sense, but it's a little disappointing. I'm disappointed on your behalf. You need to be more of a thief on the next big show that you're on.
Because I thought it would be such a great little thing, like like an ashtray, right? You open it up and then people golden, yeah.
So, as I'm sure you know, Game of Thrones has an extremely intense fandom. What's the most memorable or craziest fan experience that you've had so far?
I once, there was a guy who came up in this weird costume. It wasn't a Game of Thrones costume. It was like something Japanese anime or whatever. And then his girlfriend was there, and a hand came out from this big costume, and it gave me this note to read to her, and it was a marriage proposal. So I proposed to this woman he proposed through me.
Proposal by proxy.
And then the ring came out, and I was like, oh, and then she started crying, and I was like, don't hug me, hug the thing, but she couldn't because he was inside. So that was really, it was very sweet, but also surreal.
I can only imagine. So what does life look like for you after Game of Thrones? What's next for you? I know you're appearing in some Danish films.
I've shot a couple of films. I also shot this, it was amazing, this travel documentary in Greenland, where I went all around Greenland. Then I'm doing a film called The Silencing that starts shooting after this.
After this whole junket
2 weeks, yeah. And then I'm doing a play. I'm doing Macbeth next fall.
Oh, nice. The titular role?
The titular role, yes.
Nice.
With a guy called Matt Shakman, who actually directed an episode of Game of Thrones, the loot train thing, where Daenerys, sets fire to the Lannisters.
Any chance we'll see you in a comedy? Like a Gods of Egypt sequel?
I don't think that that would be funny in a really scary way. No, I don't think we're doing a sequel to that. No, but I love comedies. I did the last one I did was one called The Other Woman, which I had a blast doing that. But we'll see. Who knows?
What do you want to be remembered for?
Okay. Well, I do make, should I say myself, a really good jam.
Really?
Yeah.
Say more, actually. I'm really curious about Nikolaj's jam.
I like to make jams. Like, we have this plum tree that I love the plums, so I every year I make plum jam.
Okay, we will have to try that.
I would like that to be on my tombstone.
Nikolaj, he made great jam.
Yeah.
That's as good an epitaph as any, I think. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a great conversation. We're so glad to have had you.
Thank you. It was fun.